Hello and welcome back to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined today by Paul Wiltshire, who is the CEO of Songtradr. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's start off, Paul. Explain to our viewers just a bit about your background, because I'm sure it's very interesting and a bit different from the normal CEOs we have on in the finance industry.
Well, I started out my professional career as a songwriter and record producer. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in Australia, and I had some great success with that art. And some of the names might be familiar: Vanessa Amorosi, Delta Goodrum. Some of them travelled over here with Backstreet Boys. But it was very much a pleasure to create music, and because it was such a passion. But through the journey, I just sort of discovered so much friction in the world of music rights that sort of led to my second career.
And that leads us aptly on to Songtradr. Just explain what Songtradr is, how it operates, and how potentially you've turned this into a business.
Right. Well, so the genesis of Songtradr was how do we create a marketplace that connects all music creators and even catalogs, labels, and publishers to the B2B buyers, and there's a number of verticals from TV networks, film production companies, video game, advertisers, brands, and give them a marketplace where they can acquire the rights they need for the content that they need the music for. And we wanted to create a platform where rights holders had control of their rights and were able to adjust pricing or just simply upload and participate. And the journey began in 2014 in Los Angeles. I moved my family over from Australia, and we spent 2 years in development. We launched in March in 2016, and we've very quickly grown to have over 130,000 artists and catalogs on our platform now, and just on 400,000 tracks. And we've been licensing music to networks like NBC Universal and Disney and ABC, all the usual suspects in the US. And I'm here in the UK because we're opening office here in the new year, and we're preparing that process. I mean, we have clients here already because it's an online global product, but we definitely need boots on the ground here to expand here.
And I can imagine, well, it does sound quite disruptive when you start talking about rights and you look at who owns the rights and who's making the money. And obviously we've seen vast changes in the music industry, and you're more aware of them certainly than I am. But we, as a music listener and buyer, certainly the likes of Apple, Spotify, etc., that's changed. And I'm sure the whole environment of who owns the rights has changed, or who actually collects the funds and the royalties has changed. So it does sound as if you're in a disruptive, you're a disruptive element in that market. Is that what you want to do? Is that where you see the value and the niche, and where you can actually give value, or give value not only to the artist, but obviously make some money and take it away from these big labels?
Well, I mean, the world has changed so much in the last 10 years, and the music industry in particular has changed. It's become a almost purely digital business, and that's opened up a world of opportunity onto itself. Adjacent to that is the content world has completely changed. So looking at Netflix and Amazon as just core examples, but every magazine now has an online content strategy. There is so much content being created that requires music that on the demand side has fundamentally shifted. A third wheel, I guess, well, I shouldn't say wheel, a third element is that the barrier of entry to creating music has never been lower. So I recall 20 years ago when I first started, creating music was quite an expensive process, and it was usually reserved for those who could afford expensive studios or had built up their equipment and had the knowledge to make great product. Today it can be made possibly on a phone, but at least a laptop. So the convergence of those elements, the ability to make content easily, means there's so many more artists, so much more need for them to be monetized, there's so much more want in the independent music industry to create content and extent, and there's so much more demand. It made perfect sense to me to create this dual-sided marketplace and connect the two together. And that's exactly what we did. As part of that, there are some complexities because rights are complex.
Yes.
And the industry is fundamentally divided by a publishing industry and a recording industry. Those rights are combined to make a song, so the recording and the written song.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for those rights to be used in any picture, a film or TV show, then all owners needed to sign off on those rights.
Yes.
So we needed to create the technology in our platform that connected all those rights holders and interested parties,
mm-hmm.
so that it can seamlessly and automatically license to any buyer. That was one of the big challenges.
Mm-hmm. And as you say, connecting almost the kind of buyer-seller, the supply and demand, effectively you're an exchange. And you sit in the middle, it's kind of old-fashioned middleman kind of broking. And how do you make your money? Is there a fee when these transactions take place, when the licensing goes across? Is that how it works?
So essentially we're two businesses. We're an artist service business and we're a licensing marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Every licensing transaction carries a commission that we take actually a small percentage compared to most competitors in the label library sort of space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a seamless transaction. It happens instantly. We report immediately to the rights holder that sold the content. Literally, it's electronic. So in terms of speed of payment, it's nothing really matching it.
And the music press and the music documentaries, and you can read about it, littered with stories of people not getting their royalties and the rights. So
right.
This sounds as if it's empowering to the artists, which in years gone by had not been the case. Bad deals have been done.
Yeah.
Is this now kind of empowering the artists? Do they feel they've got more control over their finances and certainly their artistic integrity and the music that they create?
As a writer and record producer, we absolutely built this from the creator's perspective, and it was so important for us to have transparency and efficiency and the ability for essentially to democratize the process so that anyone who created music had access. There's always a quality difference between different creators, but there are opportunities at all levels, and we saw that an open marketplace could essentially feed a lot more creators instead of it being held by tightly held by gatekeepers as it historically has been.
Mm-hmm. And looking forward over the next few years, as I say, it's a vast changing. Very quickly, the marketplace is changing. There's developments. Technology certainly is key. Where do you see, and what is the roadmap and the plan for Songtradr over the next year, or even 5 years, if you can look that far out?
So the roadmap over the next year is very much we're focusing on what we can do for brands and in particular advertising agencies representing brands. There is just so much more content being made by brands today, and particularly online. And so we offer a product that is quite different to what's out there. It's real artists performing great music. They have fan bases, and instead of them going to, say, perhaps a library that just buy a backing track, it's, well, why not get something that has a defined fan base that they can recognise as great music, and it will just stimulate their content and their viewership. So we see that as a key part of what we're doing.
And with regards to growing the company, expanding, you already mentioned you've got boots on the ground now in London. Is this a global thing? Yes. Will you look to become, when you look at something like Spotify, is it going to float, is it not? Is this something that you may democratise the business and come to market and let people buy into your company?
So yes, we have an ambition to IPO within the next 4 to 5 years, and as part of that process, we plan to work our way into many more territories. We already have a presence in terms of our music creators in almost every country of the world. But the UK market is definitely our second target after successfully launching in the US recently.
Well, a brilliant story. Long may it continue. We'll keep the X Factor style music out of the system and get some, real, natural, talented artists. Hopefully, as a music fan, I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, Paul Wiltshire, CEO of Songtradr, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.